In this video, we will learn about the structure having plus past participle. We can use having and then the past participle of a verb to indicate that something was completed in the past. For example, having lived in London for several years, I can tell you it's a good place to raise kids. So this is a sentence, having lived in London for several years. Then we have got this comma over here. I can tell you it's a good place to raise kids. Instead of saying this, what? Having lived in London, instead of saying this, I could just say I lived in London for several years, and then a full stop or this period at the end of this sentence. This will be a period or this will be a full stop, and then there will be the next sentence, that is, I can tell you it's a good place to raise kids. So after this sentence, I lived in London for several years, and then a full stop or a period, and then it is followed by the later part of the actual sentence, but it is going to be now it is going to be a separate sentence. I can tell you it's a good place to raise kids. Before this, I have to write I lived in London for several years. So if you want a very long sentence like this, a long sentence is required, then start with having and then the past participle lived. So having lived in London for several years, comma, I can tell you it's a good place to raise kids. So it's a very long sentence that was required instead of having two separate sentences. So, and at the end of this phrase there is a comma. You can see over here there is a comma. So having, as I said, that having is recommended if you want to have a long or very long sentence that should be followed by a past participle, and then after this particular phrase we have to have this comma followed by the remaining part of the sentence. Not all verbs are going to be used with having. For example, if we are using this verb having, this structure, this one over here, this is going to be followed by some verbs that typically are used with having, like all of these verbs are going to be in past participle form: having been, having had, having gone, having seen, having read, having lived, having eaten, and of course there are many others. So having read the report, I can see a few areas for improvement. Or we can write it like that, means having read over here, this is structure, having is over there followed by this past participle over here, having read the report, then we have got a comma over here. I can see a few areas for improvement. Or we can make it negative and put not first. Not having read the report. If we want to make it negative, then put not first. Then it is followed by having, and that is also followed by past participle like the previous one. So not having read the report, I can't give you any suggestions. So with this negative, this one, with this negative word going before having, use not. So before having, use not. Use not before having. It's easy to make these sentences negative by putting not first. So having structure, having read or having been, having plus past participle, if we put not before this having, then we can make it the structure or these sentences negative quite easily. This is the same thing as saying I didn't read the report. So if I say that not having read the report, it means I didn't read the report. This one. Then we can say that I can't give you any suggestions. So this is followed by I can't give you any suggestions. So if we break this longer sentence into this, then this negative sentence will be converted into two smaller sentences. I didn't read the report instead of not having read the report, and then putting a period over there, and then I can't give you any suggestions. That is going to follow the previous sentence. But if you want to have a long sentence or longer sentence, then put not in the beginning like this, and then we have to have that comma over here. Now use having plus past participle to show contrast. Use having plus past participle or having followed by past participle to show or to indicate contrast. As we know that English is a difficult language to learn, then we have a full stop or period over here. Having said that, then a comma over here. A dedicated student can learn English over time. Over time. There is the comma. So once again, I repeat it. English is a difficult language to learn. Then there is a period or full stop. Having said that, then there is a comma. A dedicated student can learn English over time. Notice that there is a contrast between the two sentences. This one. This shows the contrast. Having said that, so notice there is a contrast between the two sentences. English is a difficult language to learn. This is first sentence. And having said that, a dedicated student can learn English over time. This is the second sentence. So there is a contrast between these two sentences. First, English is a difficult language to learn. We know English is a difficult language to learn. This one. And then this particular part, having said that, that introduces the contrast or the difference. That is, a dedicated student can learn English over time. This would be a long time. Over time, this would be a long time. English is a difficult language to learn. You can't learn it in a manner that fast and that easy. We can use this structure once apologizing and expressing regret. If you feel some regret or there is some apologetic expression, then we can use this structure. I regret having said that. When a person is unhappy with something he or she did in the past, you hear this kind of statement. I regret having said that. Here is the word having over here. This is the past participle, this one. You can replace it with other verbs. I regret having done that. We can replace said by or said with other past participle verbs like I regret having said that, or I regret having done that, or I regret having taken that, or I regret having eaten that. So this sort of verbs can be replaced by this past participle verb. When a person talks about him, his or her part actions. For example, if I say when a person is expressing about his or her past actions, especially if the action is bad or a negative, then this word is used, this sort of word. Instead of regret, we have to use, or we can use, we may use admit. And then you use to over here, we can see, then we have to use to, and then the gerund having. He admits to having done it. So over here we are not supposed to write this one. He admits to having done it. So this is past participle form. It depends upon the activity, but this kind of sentences is often formed when a person confesses something. Once there is some confession, then we use this sort of sentences. He admits to having done it, or he admits to having eaten it or taken it. We can replace this particular part, that is past participle, with this sort of expressions. Similarly, when a person apologizes, what happens? Once a person apologizes and says, I'm sorry for having done that. I'm sorry for having done that. So I'm sorry, this would be followed by this one. I'm sorry, this particular expression will be or would be or could be followed by the preposition for, and then having, and then the past participle form of the verb. So we can say I'm sorry for having done that. We can replace this done by I'm sorry for having forgotten that. So this is also good. Or we can replace it with I'm sorry for having forgotten to do that. This is also possible. So it's instead of saying I'm sorry for having done that, we can say I'm sorry for having forgotten that, or I'm sorry for having forgotten to do that. And similarly, this expression can be used to talk about something that was not done. He regrets not having done that. He regrets, there is a regret for, over here we can see that he regrets not having done that. So this is a negation over here. So we can also say that he regrets not having completed college. So instead of not having done that, we can replace it by he regrets not having completed college, means not completing his college or her college. Or we can also say he regrets not having completed medical school. This is also replaceable. Or he can say he regrets not having completed his training, and so on and so forth. Hope this will help you a lot in order to understand the concept of having followed by past participle.